generally speaking, for the psychology of things, I would start with like maybe tilting the camera, right, so that it could be like this, right, so you could kind of feel like maybe you're talking right to somebody. At this point, though, we're gonna have to do it this way. Because sometimes you just got to do it. We talked about when you write the book. Now, sometimes you got the idea, and you got to get it out there. This thing ain't never going away for the winter. It's there to stay. Dry weather, it's one of the things. So, I'm doing my best to take care of things, right? And with my hands, I don't know if I'll break things like it's Legos or just dumb stuff, but little pieces and things too, like this here phone holder that I was using, and it's just plastic. So even though we's here at the moment and the view ain't quite what it should be, we really need to get into something, and that's a challenge and a barrier, and we talked about that in some coaching videos too. But in terms of writing your book, because that's really the lane we're going in now. You're writing your book, and there might be some hesitation to do that. And here's a really big reason: is you might have a problem with using your words. And I've had problems using my words for ever, probably. And whether it's getting better or worse with time, it's really who knows. We can't let one thing stop you from doing something else, right? So let's say that you isn't real good at using words, okay? And maybe that's a reason that you ain't started writing your book yet. You might surprise yourself by coming to find out that writing is almost entirely different than talking. So if we could just set the stage for something, let's just go with one of them, what is the best possible outcomes, okay? So let's just talk about the best possible outcome you could have from writing your book, and you're not real good at using like verbal words in the first place. And especially when I was a young man, it was not good. But it ain't getting no better. But that's kind of a lie, because it is. It's getting a little better. My communication's actually developed quite a little bit more, and although I can't carry on specifically with some of maybe the adults, I can follow along just fine. But once I open my mouth, it's done. It's like logorrhea. It's about verbal diarrhea. It's just gone. Right? So when you start writing, though, you have the ability, consider, just stay with me for a minute here, you have the ability to go back and edit your work. Now, you're writing a book and you're like, well, my words, they're not quite doing what they should. Well, here's the thing, is when you're in conversation with somebody and you have words that come out, they're there, right? That's it. But when you're an author and you're authoring your novel, not everything you put down on that paper or the typing, the computer, wherever you're writing your book, not all of that has to stay there. But not only that, right? Check this out. If you need to work on your communication, writing might be the first stop for you. Start writing out the expressions you have. You might find and discover and happen upon this. You're writing out the words you would normally use, and what it gives you the ability to do is then identify how your thoughts are relating, how your brain is comprehending information, right? And even what you're interpreting. So when you're writing your book, there's a really good possibility, right, that even if your communication verbally does not improve via the process of writing your book, which generally will be writing your books, plural, you're starting to gain insight into literally how you think, and how you think is part of the words you use. Right? So What I'm saying is that it should be fair enough to say, hey, if you've got some communication problems and you can't use your words just quite real well, maybe you could just go ahead and start writing your book. You're going to get better at the writing aspect, and then you might surprise yourself, and hell, you might just be able to get on with improving your overall quality of life. Because once you get your thoughts down, right, now you understand what you're thinking, and then you can explore that further. You can even do some research. So what I'm saying here is that when you write your book, this isn't one of those conversations that you get into with somebody that you might not have the linguistic territory to follow. And even if you can follow, you might be one of the folks like me where I can follow folks, especially in my niche, in my industry. But when I go to talk, sometimes it's like yammering on. But if I sit down and write, it changes things. It's a new world for a person, right? That's a different world for a person. That's taking a person that can't talk and putting them in the world, if you will, in your mind, on the sheet, on the computer, whatever it is. And I go to a different place. So that's kind of a thing here, right? Is you might not be able to use your words in certain settings right now. But what if you could write and replace in lieu of those verbal communications? If you ask a lot of biologists and whatnot, one thing that's kind of for sure, right, is that language was designed to be limiting. You think about language. Language is verbal, written, right? These things. But it's designed to be limited. When you write, you're taking the limits and the bounds off of it. Here we are with the word thing again, right? You're like, what the hell are you talking about? Okay. The dictionary changes all the time. It's constantly expanding, it's constantly improving, right? So you can constantly expand and you can constantly improve by writing. And you might even be surprised to realize that some of the stuff you're writing about, it might not even be the things that you would be talking about. That's exciting. No, really, that's super exciting. You literally have you're almost in like two brains then, right? So you got this one where you're trying to use words and that's coming out as a certain story. And you're writing and that's coming out as a certain story. Fascinating, right? So we no longer have to worry about how good or how bad your verbal expressions are, or if people are going to be all right with taking the information from you, if they're going to be receptive to it, and right, all these things that happen, right? Vulnerability allows a person to make a video like this. Vulnerability also makes a person a comedian when they can laugh at their own life. I'm here to say that my words is usually terrible. I can't get by very much with them. I can. We get by all right. But words are something else. Right? So when you write your book, there might be some questions that develop along the way even. Right? Because you are using a way to communicate with literally yourself before you even talk to anybody else. These words are going on paper before anybody reads them. So you have the ability to use language as the limiting obstacle that it can be to really express yourself in ways that you weren't able to express yourself before. Whether you use a youngin', right, or whether you use an adult, whatever the situation is, you don't have to be good at words to write your book. Whether it takes you 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, however long it takes you to write your book, you can edit it along the way. So regardless of the context of the things that you have to say, see what happens through the context of what you have to write.